This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Rising Cloud, which I hadn't heard of before. But they're doing something vaguely interesting here. They are using AI, which is usually where my eyes glaze over and I lose attention, but they're using it to help developers be more efficient by reducing repetitive tasks. So the idea being that you can run stateless things without having to worry about scaling, placement, etc., and the rest. They claim significant cost savings, and they're able to wind up taking what you're running as it is in AWS with no changes and run it inside of their data centers that span multiple regions. I'm somewhat skeptical, but their customers seem to really like them. So that's one of those areas where I really have a hard time being too snarky about it, because when you solve a customer's problem and they get out there in public and say, we're solving a problem, it's very hard to snark about that. Multis Medical, Constructs.ai, and Stacks have seen significant results by using them, and it's worth exploring. So if you're looking for a smarter, faster, cheaper alternative to EC2, Lambda, or Batch, consider checking them out. Visit risingcloud.com/benefits. That's risingcloud.com/benefits. And be sure to tell them that I sent you, because watching people wince when you mention my name is one of the guilty pleasures of listening to this podcast.
Good morning and welcome to the AWS Morning Brief. We can definitely tell the performance review season is over at Amazon, because last week was notable, not for the number of releases as a raw number, but rather how impactful a few of them are likely to be. Let's dive in. Amazon Redshift announces public preview of streaming ingestion for Kinesis data streams. I suppose it's on Sporting to note that there are articles dating back a couple of years now on how to get Kinesis data streams to stream data into Snowflake. Amazon Recognition Video supports 7 new languages and improves accuracy for text detection. Progress! There was a time I could count on at least one of those 7 languages being something either problematic or culturally insensitive. Slowly but surely, an AWS service beset by controversy iterates toward respectability. Amazon SageMaker Autopilot now provides confusion matrix and additional new insights for classification problems. The real confusion matrix is the list of SageMaker sub-services. Announcing a new AWS Billing Console homepage experience. Go check out the billing dashboard in your AWS account and you'll discover that it's become worlds better than it used to be. It's a great glimpse of a bright future for cloud economics. AWS Control Tower now provides updated support for AWS best practices and region deny. This feature release is my fault. I just finished updating and reorganizing my Control Tower environment 4 hours before this dropped. Now I have to go back and update all of my accounts again. AWS Managed Services now available in AWS GovCloud US regions. A whole bunch of AWS partners in the US federal space are about to have their market validated for them. AWS Migration Hub refactor spaces are now generally available. Here's a dedicated environment in which to refactor your applications as you migrate them is a facepalm moment for me. Of course, that's a common pattern. And of course, AWS can make that easier. It just never occurred to me to actually build out something dedicated to that. New for AppRunner, VPC support. Huzzah! Now, if only it supported a container that listens on multiple ports. If it does, please reach out with a bat of correction to thwap some sense into me. New, replicate existing objects with Amazon S3 batch replication. This is a remarkably strong candidate for what could potentially be the most expensive API call in all of AWS. You're going to want to be careful with this one. How GE Aviation automated engine wash analytics with AWS Glue using a serverless architecture. GE Aviation held together with AWS Glue is probably not the intended takeaway from this headline, but now it's all you're going to remember now that I've said it. Load testing applications built with the Amazon Chime SDK. The way I'd load test it would simply be to post a meeting link to Twitter and brace myself for the barrage of nonsense I was about to experience. This is probably why this blog post exists, for people who are good at their jobs instead. How to mount Linux volume and keep mount point consistency. A fairly lengthy blog post to offer a solution that fits in a tweet. Address volumes via their UUIDs rather than a device name.
This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Chaos Search. You could run Elasticsearch or Elastic Cloud or OpenSearch, as they're calling it now, or a self-hosted Elk stack. But why? Chaos Search gives you the same API you've come to know and tolerate, along with unlimited data retention and no data movement. Just throw your data into S3 and proceed from there as you would expect. This is great for IT operations folks, for app performance monitoring, cybersecurity. If you're using Elasticsearch, consider not running Elasticsearch. They're also available now in the AWS Marketplace if you'd prefer not to go direct and have half of whatever you pay them count toward your EDP commitment. Discover what companies like Equifax, Armor Security, and Blackboard already have. To learn more, visit chaossearch.io and tell them I sent you just so you can see them facepalm yet again. Deep dive on AWS App Runner VPC networking. Very often the thing that makes you rock is also the thing that makes you suck. VPC networking is very much like that. It empowers some truly awesome things, but the cost is that very few of us hold the entire mental model in our heads anymore. Down that path lies danger. Improving customer experience and delivering 94% savings using Amazon Lex. How on earth do you save that kind of money with this solution? By firing people, Kyle. You save 94% by firing people. Now available, AWS Virtual Waiting Room Solution. AWS now offers a solution that's explicitly crafted to help you disappoint your customers. SQL Server high availability deployments using Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP. The only times I'd ever even considered running databases on top of NFS or other network file systems was when there was a NetApp backing the share. Eventually, all things come to cloud, and this is a neat example of exactly the kind of nonsense I used to do in the olden days. And finally, proactively keep resources secure and compliant with AWS CloudFormation hooks. CloudFormation becomes a hell of a lot more interesting for a lot of use cases. Being able to execute arbitrary code before CloudFormation modifies resources can be a game changer. I love that this isn't per template or per stack. I can't wait to see what people build with this and that I can then steal in order to achieve interesting outcomes without having to fiddle with all the parts myself. I can't remember the last time I was this excited about a CloudFormation release. Maybe it was drift detection? And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn. Please continue to make good choices.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.